Welcome to BONA Dialogues.
In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bonafide Dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge. Amy Andersen is the founder and CEO of Linx Dating and is widely known as the Cupid of Silicon Valley. For over 2 decades, she has worked with the most eligible men and women of the San Francisco Bay Area, establishing herself as the premier matchmaker for discerning professionals in tech, finance, venture capital, and beyond. What began as a boutique local practice has grown into a global brand, while remaining deeply rooted in the values, innovation, and spirit of Silicon Valley. Her rigorously researched methods, combined with her highly attuned personal intuition, allow Amy to approach matchmaking as both an art and a science. She is renowned for helping even the most high-achieving individuals cultivate lasting, emotionally intimate relationships that bring peace, balance, and a sense of being truly seen. Outside of her work as a matchmaker, Amy is deeply engaged in her community and increasingly channels her energy into philanthropy through Cupid for a Cause, the charitable arm of Linx Dating. Her expertise has been featured in Vanity Fair, CNN, CNBC, and many other leading media outlets.
The holiday season is almost here. It's a wonderful time of the year. But there's so many people that don't have partners or families, and they feel very lonely. And I feel like it's a good time for us to maybe reflect on the last year and think about 2026. And many of us are working very hard, and we don't think about our personal lives as much as we probably should. So I thought it would be wonderful to invite you as an expert in this area to give some good advice to our listeners and have this wonderful conversation. You're a matchmaker, and if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, why did you become a matchmaker?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm delighted to be talking to you today. This is so much fun. So my name is Amy Andersen, and I run a business called Linx Dating right in the heart of Silicon Valley. And my journey in starting Linx was pretty simple, actually. I had been living in the heart of Silicon Valley in Palo Alto, to be specific, back in 2000 timeframe. So actually a long time ago. And that is when I witnessed something really interesting in Silicon Valley, where I saw a very lopsided ratio between single men and women. So I was socializing a lot. At that time, I was in a pretty serious committed relationship with somebody who was kind of this prototypical Silicon Valley guy, successful man in venture capital. And he would introduce me to a lot of his male contemporaries. And a lot of these men were, like him, very well educated, all professionals. Yet I saw something unusual in them, that almost all of them were single. And these men were searching, trying to find a good partner, yet they didn't necessarily have the social networks to find that person. So for me, as a young entrepreneur back then, it was really based on observation, thinking to myself, okay, a lot of men in Silicon Valley, something is a little unusual. They're all complaining about the dismal dating scene, not a lot of kind of networks to kind of support them. So then I looked up to San Francisco, where I'm from. So I'm born and raised in San Francisco in Marin County. And I saw something fascinating. So during that time, again, kind of 2000 era, I was networking and doing a lot of volunteer work with a lot of women. So these were women that I had met through a wonderful organization called the Junior League, which it's all women, no men. So we were all volunteering together, but it really afforded me this powerful opportunity where I was meeting women who were very accomplished, attorneys, entrepreneurs, founders of companies, physicians, all sorts of dynamic professionals. And they complained to me about that they were
Same.
single and searching, trying to find a good man to complement their already full, amazing life. So that's when the light bulb went off in my brain. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. There has to be something really fundamentally important here. What if I were to bridge this gap? What if I were to take these two demographics in the Bay Area, some 40 miles apart from each other, and create opportunities that they might not have otherwise? Silicon Valley man meets San Francisco woman, opportunity to be had. So that was the genesis for Linx in its very kind of like infancy stage. And from that point on, I did a ton of research. I got really excited. So I started trying to figure out, gosh, are other people doing this? And if they aren't, I can't believe it. I better like buy a domain quickly and figure this out. So that was really kind of the kind of seed that I planted for Linx. And then I officially started my business in December of 2003. So it took a few years to just kind of actualize that, do the research, see if the market supported that, save some money so I could actually kind of formally start the business. And I have never looked back. It's been one of the greatest decisions of my life.
And it seems like it's very rewarding, right? Because you
Oh my gosh.
connect this two different worlds and something beautiful happens out of it.
My gosh, it is truly one of the most gratifying, just soul enriching experiences of my life. You know, when I think about the complexities, like when two people actually meet, whether it's from my introduction or Kismet kind of on their own or a dating app, whatever it is, when you think about like two people merging their lives together with two completely different sets of life histories. And then when the chemistry is there and it clicks and that respect is there, I mean, it's really nothing short of a miracle, right? And then when it lasts and it just continues to evolve in this incredible way, I mean, that's magic. So for me, when I have that opportunity to set two people up and they click and they report back, they're like, oh my gosh, Amy, we're going out again. I'm like, oh, like it's amazing. And tonight I have one of my VIP clients who's proposing to the love of his life.
Aw.
And that's just like, it's been such a journey working with this gentleman. And we've come a really long way. And I'm so proud of him. And so like it's just like it literally like floods my heart and I like feel the dopamine rush and the serotonin. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's
Just
amazing, yeah.
it's just
But you get to know these people, right? On the
oh
personal level, on the professional, and maybe a little bit on the personal level as well.
yes, you actually really nailed it because it is a professional relationship with my clients, but this is the business of the heart. Like they are investing in their heart, and therefore I'm putting my expertise to understand the nuances of their emotion and their hearts. So it does transcend into something that is personal. And because it's so intimate in that regard, it's hard not to connect on a deeper level outside of that kind of professional context. So, you know, I do become friends with a lot of my clients and they do invite me to their weddings or, you know, baby showers if they, you know, have a child together because it's like we've crossed that divide in the most like respectful of ways. And it's just this natural kind of organic extension to something we built. So it's really special.
Oh, it's wonderful. No, I hope she says yes today.
She's going to. She loves him so much, and he loves her. And it's a magical story because you know he had been married to somebody for 35 plus years and lost her, you know, so learning to love after like profound loss. And she, his partner, shares a similar story of having lost her spouse after many years of marriage. So kind of it's a beautiful, deep match based on a really profound story of learning to love after loss. So they share this powerful connection that very few people can understand on that deep human level. So it's just so special. Like they love each other, and she will say yes. So
Okay.
I'm so excited
Wonderful.
for them. Yeah.
I knew it. I was just joking. Yeah, of course. Of course. So what is going on here in the Bay Area?
Hmm.
Why there is such a disconnect? Because you just described the situation that you found 20 years ago, but it seems to me that it didn't change much.
Yeah, the Bay Area is definitely its own unique, challenging ecosystem with respect to dating and just kind of life in general. I think one of the major things that I'm sure we can both relate to is we work so much, right? So people are just pouring their all and energy into kind of their jobs. And so by virtue of that, there's limited hours in the day to really kind of think about dating. And so beyond that, like a lot of these different corporate cultures are challenging. I think like a decade ago, they used to almost provide an opportunity as a resource when it comes to dating, right? People would prospect in the confines of whatever job they had, kind of husband hunt or look for a girlfriend in those corporate, work environments. Post Me Too movement now
Yeah.
off limits. Just people don't even go there. Men tell me they're afraid to even make eye contact with a woman at work. They'd rather kind of go like this and walk down the hallway because they're scared. They're fundamentally
Yeah.
really scared. So we see not only people working a ton in the Bay Area, limited resources within kind of, the confines of work in terms of like meeting people. And then I think, it's Bay Area, San Francisco in general, a very transient city, people moving in, people moving out. So that becomes, I think, quite complicated. I also find that there's a shrinking of resources the older somebody gets, and by older, this can be somebody in their 30s, what were really once plentiful social networks begin to kind of shrink and dwindle down the older we get. So when we're younger, there's a lot of prospects, lots of single people. People are like still looking for love, right? But then people move, they get married. And so we see those kind of shrinking of social networks become more limited, right?
Yeah.
So then I think we're dealing with the paradox of choice here, right? There's no shortage of different resources out there, especially when it comes to dating apps. But then it's kind of like a matter of do you really want to spend your time doing that? And then some people are not in the right mindset to even think about finding that relationship. And so I think that becomes really hard for people to kind of crack that code and understand when they are out there dating, whether it's the app or friend setups or maybe they're in a bar or something, wherever they are, like who is the right person for me? And if I do meet somebody, is that person sharing the same values and alignment that I do with respect to goals and whatever that individual is looking for? So I think it's all of those different factors make it increasingly challenging because there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of noise and a lot of kind of buzz around us. So my process is teaching people to be very clear on what they're looking for and importantly, slowing down.
Mhm. Wonderful. I actually wanted to ask you about your process. Many people who watch my podcast live here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley, and so many people are lonely, unfortunately. Nowadays, it seems like the apps don't work anymore. It works for some small percentage of people, but it seems to me that most people give up on apps.
Yes.
If you could walk us through your process, what are
Yeah.
the benefits of this process? And would it work for anyone or for specific person? Probably not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little bit about the process. So, there is what I call kind of a method to the madness. So, there's a lot of steps involved. So, typically, somebody will come across my website. My website is content based. So, there's no algorithms or matchmaking that takes place on the website. So, everything is decidedly very traditional and offline, where they're either finding the website and they're applying through that, or they're getting referred to me by somebody who knows of Linx Dating. So they would submit some information, a really basic intake form. Once I get that form, me, the human, is going to review that. I actually input all information by any prospect by hand into my database. My database is for my eyes only. Even my team doesn't have access to this because my clients really value privacy and discretion. So this is like fundamentally one of the cornerstones of the Linx Dating brand. So I'm inputting that
That's
information.
what I heard about your brand. I think this is extremely important. Privacy is very important to many people, and especially for professionals.
Yes, there is no question about that. A lot of my clients are extremely private people. The notion of having to create a public persona through a dating app or have their information exposed somewhere, it's a non-starter. So they really, in hiring a matchmaker, they're really looking for somebody who understands the complexities of, discretion and certainly the nuances, and somebody who's going to respect their privacy. So yes, 100%. So I'm taking all that information and I'm really trying to kind of quickly decide, does that prospect have the right kind of DNA for the type of client I'm looking for? I'm really particular. So I turn away a lot of business, often simply because the person is not the right fit. And I feel there's not alignment there for long-term success. So I need to, as a matchmaker and business owner, entrepreneur here, I need to feel really confident that I can genuinely help somebody. If I feel I can't help them, I'm never going to leave them rudderless. I'm going to refer them to somebody else in my professional community that I really like and trust, that I feel can better serve them. So I never take on business where I feel like I can't help that individual. And maybe that is based on what they're looking for in a partner, a future partner. So kind of back to process. I'm reviewing their information. If I feel like there's a good fit, then what I'm doing is I'm sending them an ideal match document. This is really fun because this is them peeling the layers back in terms of the science-based metrics for what they're looking for. So this is the science behind Linx matchmaking, being the metrics that somebody is looking for pertaining to a partner's age range, their physical appearance, religion, personality characteristics and traits, background, previous marital status, goals, lifestyle questions such as, do you like dogs? Do you like cats? What if your partner drinks? What if she doesn't drink? Drug use, smoking, all of these different things. So I'm getting a very keen sense of A, who they are based on that intake, and B, what they're looking for based on their ideal partner.
Yeah.
So after that, that's when I'm really digesting that information. And again, I'm thinking to myself, okay, based on what they're looking for, can I genuinely help them? If I think I can help them, I would advance an invitation to meet. So that's actually my favorite part, is the meet and greet. It's a really important time where it's almost kind of like the prospect and myself, we have a first professional date. We're seeing how we could fit together, right? They're seeing if they like me, if they're comfortable with my strategy, kind of my presentation, my personality, if they feel that I could help them, if that vibe is there, all these different things. So we're really kind of like doing that little
A custom process.
yeah,
Yeah.
very customized. And then I'm really walking them through how I think I could help them. Then we're talking about membership and seeing if they'd be interested. And we're trying to kind of figure out the right route. They might realize that they're not ready for becoming a premium client where they would be investing a lot emotionally, time-wise, and financially. So we might realize that the best route is actually something a little bit more passive in capacity, where they just join the, for lack of a better word, kind of vetted inventory and database. So it's kind of our way to really see where the wind blows and where they land with that. And so we'll be real clear on that. And then if they're advancing down the client route, they're going to get a fair amount of homework. And we're going to chat again on Zoom, maybe meet in person and have some fun, and then really start the process, which typically takes up to 2 months for my team to build the so-called kind of dating pipeline of candidates. And that's where we're getting them ready for the dating world too. They might be doing some date coaching, getting date kind of portraits and photography done, and really feeling confident. So that's kind of the preparation in phase 1 that kind of behind the scenes our team does. And then the client knows they have their set of kind of homework and things they need to kind of check off to get really ready for phase 2, which is about dating and discovery.
I like how you have everything structured. Phase 1, phase 2,
Oh my gosh.
everything is organized. You have a process developed. You have science behind it. I love this.
1,000%. It is very strategic, actually. It is very carefully delineated. There is no ambiguity, and that's what people like, especially in Silicon Valley. I find that they love that I'm very clear if I can help them. Once we are clear on that, then what I'm doing actually in terms of kind of thinking about matches for them, I actually start with a schema and a structure. And I start kind of building upon that. I'm then creating an archetype for their person and sharing that with them. And so there really is like a big strategy that goes into the Linx matchmaking process. And clients love that. I mean, they're like, okay, like this feels really supported. And like, I feel like you have a great mastery of what I'm looking for. Let's go. Like, you know, guns a-blazing. We're ready to do this. So it's really exciting, but it is very strategic in that regard. And there are different phases, which also allows for pacing. Because what I wouldn't want is for somebody to start this and then just feel overwhelmed, or that they don't know kind of the direction that things are going. So we're really big into just open, transparent communication. Client knows if there's ever a moment where they need more support or less support from our team, we're doing that. We're really lockstep. At the end of the day, actually, this is a partnership. It's a partnership between myself and my team members and the client. And that's what allows for success.
I think it's a wonderful process, and there's no guarantee for this happily ever after, right? But I'm sure that anyone who goes through this process learns something very valuable, especially about themselves, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So to hit on your first point, there are no guarantees. So I wish I could do that. I wish I could kind of wave a magical wand and like miraculously like find their person on the very first match. And that does happen and it can happen. But again, I think the key here in working with certain clients, like if somebody wants to be successful with this, where the odds increase from the start, this begins with somebody who's clear on themselves. They have a firm read on who they are as a human being. To kind of extend beyond that, they have a really clear vision on who they're looking for. Mm-hmm. Without sense of self and without sense of what they're looking for in a partner, going to be more challenging, right? So those that come in with a pretty clear vision are the ones who are going to be more successful. And as long as they can be patient, that again, I'm not a magician here. I'm going to work really hard and suss out, the client search. Like, I'm maniacal about that. Like I want them to be successful, but it does start with themselves, right?
I would guess that many people, your clients, would come with very high expectations.
Yes.
How
Yes.
do you address this issue?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, these are high achieving individuals, right? Very high
Exactly.
achieving, extraordinarily, the typical client is erudite, dynamic, highly educated, like very successful and accomplished in career. I really look at them as somebody who basically has their entire life together. It's kind of like this giant puzzle where all the pieces are fitting together, but there is one missing piece, and that is their partner, right? And so their bar is very high and the pressure is on. It's high stakes. I mean, there is no doubt about that. It is high stakes. It is a very pressurized situation because they want it all. They've had everything in their life up until this point. Like they have extraordinary lives, great, full, robust, dynamic lives, and they haven't found that right person. And so they're placing a lot of trust in me, right? They're placing a lot of trust in me, this process, the network that supports this process. And so by virtue of that, there is a lot of pressure. They're like, okay, go find the person. I'm like, no pressure, not a problem. But that's like, I thrive from that. And I love the challenge. And that is also why I'm only working with a small volume of clients. So this is not a high kind of volume-based business at all for me. That's actually something as a business owner that I have evolved over the years, where years and years and years ago, I worked with, say 30 to 40 clients, way too much. I learned that is not how to run an efficient dating business at all. And for me to really support my clients and for them to feel great about this, and as this partnership where we see success and to the finish line of like them finding their person, that required me to kind of refocus, fine-tune my strategy from a business perspective, and realize that kind of I landed in a place of only working with, say, 12 clients at any time. So that's really how I run my business, and it works really well.
Wonderful. And how would you describe your typical client?
Yeah, so beyond kind of those demographics of somebody who's super well educated, professionals, I mean, there's a wide range
Men
of
and women, both.
Absolutely, yes. And that's actually a really important distinction. There are some pretty old school matchmakers that are a little bit more, I'd call them archaic, just not supporting women. I don't know why. The focus is just on men. I think the assumption is the men make the money. I'm sorry, here in the Bay
Not in Silicon Valley,
Area,
right?
women are often the
Both, yeah. There are
both.
many successful women.
Many successful, highly accomplished, educated women. So for me, that was never a question in my mind that I wouldn't represent both genders. So working with men and women, in terms of ages, I see spanning the generations from, I'd say mid 30s to 70s. I'd say the bell curve is going to be for women early 40s or so, and for men, typically late 40s into the 50s. There are different sub-demographics that I see heavier concentrations on compared to different kind of sub-demographics. So to kind of expand on those, there are individuals that I have worked with and currently represent that are very high profile. People that have lived a very public life, typically due to career. So they are externally facing, and the stakes for them are really high. The cost of getting this wrong, right? The cost of aligning with the wrong partner and going about kind of, mate selection could cost them millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. So they come to me because they're really looking for somebody who understands, again, kind of as we touched upon earlier, that the privacy and the discretion and kind of the sensitivities of their world and environment to which they operate in. So that would be somebody in terms of like a sub-demographic. Another big demographic I deal with are individuals that are in this transition. So people that were married 10 to, let's say, 30 years. And then they're like, whoa, the rug's pulled out from under me. My wife or husband just said they're leaving me. Okay. And then they realize, oh my gosh, the world is entirely different from when I was single 30 years ago. How do I even do this? Am I even ready? Like all these different things are going on through this transition, dating through separation into divorce. I love clients like that because I'm really great at supporting them and helping them pace their self, which we'll get into kind of chatting about that. But that's it. That's certainly a really big one in the Bay Area. The other, I'd say, smaller sub-demographic would be the widows and widowers learning love after loss. I love supporting them. And they're often
Wonderful. Yeah, it's so wonderful to see them learning to love again. I can only imagine. Yeah.
such a gift. It really is. And then there's people where definitely not atypical in the Bay Area. They have been almost like a horse with the horse blinders on, completely laser beam focused academically and career wise to the detriment of a personal life. So they wake up at 39, they're like, wait, oh my gosh, I'm almost 40 years old. I want a baby. Oh yeah, I want a husband too. So it's like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit, but I can help you. So there's definitely that sub-demographic of client that I see. And then I would say a big one are typically the younger generation where they are so burnt out from dating apps, complete fatigue. And they're like, there has to be somebody good out there. They believe in love and they believe in the possibilities, but it just isn't working for them through the apps or online. So that's when I hear from them. So there's a lot of kind of micro demographics in terms of clientele that I see, but at the root,
Yeah.
educated professionals, dynamic and commitment minded. Not everybody's
That's important. Yeah.
yeah, and not everybody's racing to the altar to get
No.
married tomorrow, but they do share universally the common truth of monogamy and wanting to, have a partner for an incredible relationship. So that's something that is really exciting and that I see a lot. And that's the other, I think, for those who've done a lot of the app dating, the frustration within that is finding that right person who's aligned with the goals and who wants monogamy. That's a hard one.
That makes sense
Yeah.
because if you're a busy person, professional person, you have your life, you have it all scheduled, right? You need some predictability and stability in life. So I don't know too many, I think like serial daters or somebody who enjoys to go to 100 different dates. People maybe do that because they can't find the right person, but not for the fun of it, right?
Exactly, exactly. I think that that is very exhausting for most people, right? And it's draining. And that's dangerous too, because the more somebody does that, then they can kind of bleed into that kind of jadedness, right? And just like feeling lackluster and just kind of burnt out from it all. So it's really important if that does happen to extract yourself and take time to yourself and just get off the apps and work on yourself and just surround yourself by friends, your community, right? And just like don't kind of go to that dark side of like, believing that it's not possible because it is possible, but sometimes we all have felt that where we just kind of we get kind of down down in kind of the realities of life, and it's important to kind of bounce back, but also just like to remember to kind of gain that, perspective and just take a beat, take a breather.
Oh, very interesting.
So
But
many things to cover.
what do people look for in the Bay Area?
Yeah,
Generally, men and women. I
gosh.
don't know if we should address it the way I asked you to in the Bay Area. Is it any different from any other woman or man, or there's some unique,
Yeah.
specific characteristics that apply to our area?
Our area. I mean, I think that, well, I'd say, number one, for men, what's important is, I mean, they really kind of talk about this mind-body balance. So somebody who's going to have balance in her life, in time for him, who he's going to be attracted to. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That is truly like fascinating to me because one man's kind of sense of a beautiful woman can just vary to the next man, right? And so we might think there's a type, but there really isn't a type physically. There are some universal truths around that, such as, somebody who cares about wellness, because that's going to equate to longevity, a longer life together, more happiness. But beyond that, like body type, race, it is a scattergram of chaos in data that I see, which I love because again, it's just like, oh, it's so interesting.
I love
Um,
it too. Yeah, I think it's wonderful how people find beauty.
100%.
And I think often it's more about energy, about how a person makes you feel.
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that. So much is energetically just kind of like somebody who's leaning into the possibilities and kind of has that openness and you feel that, right? So,
Mm.
side note, knowing when to feel that and tapping into that, right? And we can kind of talk about that because that can be a challenge for people in Silicon Valley is understanding, feeling and slowing down and getting out of this, right? And
Right.
get more heart-centered and into our body that will allow for that attraction and release energetically. So that's not always easy though in this area. So that's something in my life, I'm constantly.
I heard that dates become more like a business meeting or more like a friendship
Absolutely.
dinner, So that's something interesting that you just mentioned.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we have to remember the context of our environment. What exactly are we entering into? Is this a business meeting? Is this an investor pitch? Are you trying to Series B round? Or is this a, potential partner romantically? So you really have to remember the context and the environment and then tap into that energy, right? And present yourself a certain way, right?
I do like the fact that people become friends and then there's a spark. Those
Yeah.
stories are beautiful too, right?
Yes, 100%. But at a certain point, women especially need to remember how men are wired, right? And I'd be curious, the men watching this and listening, if they agree with this. But I do find that for men, they are more wired, black and white. And for us women, of course, there's a lot of black and white, but a lot of gray and nuances and emotion around this. So in the context of dates, men do look at us women for better or for worse, and they're going to bucket us in terms of one of three buckets on the first date. That is business bucket, kind of, okay, she could be somebody that I'm going to talk about stock tips with, investments, the Roth IRA, whatever it is. So that's bucket one. Bucket two is friendship. Bucket three is romance, right? So if a woman is leaning too heavily in the business kind of direction because she leads with that, or she begins to compete with him, or tries to kind of go, toe to toe, then he's gonna, all of a sudden she plops into the business, right? And
Be
that's
careful with that, right?
got to be careful with that. It is about balancing energies and tempering kind of the masculine energy and the feminine energy. But again, to kind of pull back from that, remembering the context and the environment. If it's a date, you got to flirt. And this is never, very importantly, this is not for a woman to diminish her smarts or her her all or her success or anything like that. But it is remembering kind of that environment. And if you want to get to date two, there are things that you need to do in order to kind of actualize that. And that starts with flirting a little bit and laughing and the light, easy breezy energy. But back to your earlier question about kind of those truths, what people are looking for, right? So the men, I'd say that mind body balance, she's going to have time for him, laugh at his jokes. The secret, actually, if I'm going to tell you the secret, men choose women for all those three buckets. So they actually are looking for somebody, thank goodness, that is intelligent, right? Who he can fully trust with important business decisions. That second bucket, who's his confidant and best friend, right? Who he can laugh with, who he can play with. And the third, a lover, like who he's wildly attracted to. The amalgam, if we were to melt those together, that's his partner. That's how men think. Now, for women, what are they looking for? Well, I'd say it really depends on their set of life histories up until this point, but integrity is a real big one. A man who's going to communicate. Um, I see with so many women that based on their life histories, finding somebody who's steady, who is going to be this anchor in their life where they feel safe and a sense of protection. That is really,
That's
really,
the key. You just said that. You just
yeah,
said that stability. Yeah, stability and security. It seems like that's the 90% of everything that women want all over the world.
exactly.
Security and stability. If you can provide that, you're the
Absolutely.
hero.
Yes, exactly. And that's emotional, right? There's
Exactly.
a sense of kind of financial stability around that too.
Exactly. Emotional stability. Yeah.
That predictability, consistency when it comes to behavior, consistency when it comes to communication, predictability, sense of security, that anchor, that protection, that I'd say that really beautiful dichotomy of what it means to be a man, from a primal level and what it means to be a woman. So the bar is high, right? But
And then we say security, it's protection. What does that even mean?
yeah,
Because it's not always the same, the way we see things and the way men think about it. Yes,
I
I provide security. What does it mean to provide security for a woman?
yeah, I mean, I think it's nervous system regulation, right? Where it's like we don't have to like, oh my gosh, what's he up to? Or is he making a bad decision? Or is he doing something like weird or whatever? So I think that kind of like, again, that steadiness and stability and predictability within kind of how he lives his life, a man of responsibility and integrity and protects our heart as we protect his heart is that sense of security and protection, right? But yes, I think also in the physical sense of like we're walking down the street and he walks on the
Yeah,
outside,
the road. Yeah,
that
beautiful.
yeah, that beautiful kind of
Those
like
little things women always pay attention to.
women love that. A man who does open the doors, right? Like things like that, like truly back to like how he was raised. Those things are wildly attractive to women. And sometimes, are missing from dating in general, right? Now, I will sympathize with a lot of guys because men tell me, Amy, I don't know how to act. Men will tell me for one woman, when they open the door, that woman will say, oh my gosh, thank you for doing that. The next woman will say, shame on you. I can open my door myself. I'm an independent woman. You don't have to do that for me. So they truly don't know how to act in some cases. So I do
How
say,
do I would say, how do you want to act? What makes you comfortable? And then find the woman that would feel the same way. That's what I would say,
exactly,
you know?
exactly. A woman who's really going to appreciate that.
Appreciate it because I think that's what men want. They want to feel appreciated and respected. These are two things that the key.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I think finding the right partner is truly kind of this force multiplier in life. We see increased happiness, we see nervous system regulation, we see that steadiness and calmness, we see more professional performance, we see longer lifespan, more joy. So getting it right is really important. And I think sometimes people who act in haste aren't thinking clearly. They're not thinking logically about how important this really is. Arguably, finding the right partner is, if not the most important decision and investment in your personal life. It can impact so many different things. But again, kind of to pull back, you got to be kind of clear about who you are, and really understand that and what you're looking for. And that does start with working on yourself. It really does.
Yes, and you mentioned that you work with many men and women that went through divorce. Like you said, things changed. For example, if you've been married for 20 years, right, and now you try dating, first of all, most people in your age group are already married. There are not that many available people. Men and women have children and their schedules. It seems like impossible task to even date. Is that true?
Yes, 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 and yes. So I think that it's a scary thing. I think that it can be overwhelming at best. But the great thing is there's so many different strategies and techniques to dating through this transition of like separation into divorce, post-divorce, and really thrive within those different kind of environments and find so much joy and satisfaction. But I would say the very first thing is leaning into working on yourself first. So before you even start thinking about dating, and it depends kind of where you're landing, like, in listening to this, if you're going through this, like it really depends kind of where you're at in the stage of your personal life. If you've been divorced for a couple of years, it's going to be different than somebody who is, just filing papers now with the courts. So you got to kind of take that into account. But really starting with kind of your inner workings and who you are and tapping into that like energetically about like just doing a good roadmap of your life. I'd say pen to paper, like the attributes about your ex that you really admired. Why were you together for as long
That
as
could be a hard part, right?
it's being clear about what brought you together in the first place because you were with him or her for presumably a long time, right? There's no disputing that. You're not denying that, right? So there was a reason why you did marry that person. So writing down the pros, then you're going to get to the cons and kind of the flags, the things that caused it to come to a close and that severed ties. So that's going to be really important as part of kind of this clearing and being able to kind of begin moving on.
People usually say, you know, I know what I don't want.
Exactly.
And it's actually a good first step, right?
Exactly. So doing that, but then, leaning into your network of friends. I think that our friends provide us tremendous support. And sometimes I know for men, it can be a little bit like less desirable to do this as compared to women, who are a little bit more apt to kind of tap our networks, our social networks of friends, for support during times of this. But getting people's perspective also, because sometimes our friends know us really, really well, right? And as we're kind of creating this framework about, who we are and, ultimately what we might be looking for, our friends can provide that for us. Hiring a therapist, right? Reading self-help books. There's so many different resources as we go inward and work on ourselves. The goal with this is to take time for ourselves, slow down and not worry about like future casting and trying to like figure things out. Just find that sense of groundingness. And that might also be from phase two, besides kind of the therapy, the self-help, the friends, really that kind of framework of what worked, what didn't work in our previous marriage, then working on our physical body. It's really important to take care of ourselves, right? And heal. And that often starts with movement. So we probably feel a little deregulated and sticky and icky. So that means like doing some yoga maybe, or like finding happiness through a passion that you haven't done in a while. Maybe you love golf or tennis, pickleball, whatever it is, or just getting out and taking some mindful steps, one foot in front of the next every day to just achieve that balance. I find when we have that flow and chi in our life, we're going to feel better. When we feel better, people are going to feel that, right? And so these are all going to be the baby building blocks to then get to that point about really thinking about dating again. But it first starts with yourself before you can even start about thinking about a partner or dating. So you got to work on yourself first. And then there's wonderful things to just start doing. I'm all about, once you've thought about kind of the type of person you're looking for, then I always tell people, get off the couch, get off your device, put yourself in target-rich environments. So if you love like a really cerebral type, maybe you're doing continuing education classes, you're attending those at Stanford. What greater environment to kind of increase the odds of putting yourself in an environment with people who love to learn like you do. So attractive. Maybe there's a single person there. Strike up a conversation. Lean into that. Maybe they're not the one for you. Who cares? You're getting practice, right? That's how you have to think. And these are all going to be the tools and strategies that help propel you forward in your personal life that becomes incredibly exciting, where it's not a daunting thing. It's not something that you have to obsess with. It's something that you're just going to flow through life and just see how you land kind of on the other side. And this, to me, this is the exciting part. It's like the recipe for success. If you like somebody who is really into fitness, you're joining like a high-end gym, and then there's strategies beyond that. My motto, just say hi. Literally, I tell people all the time, just say hi, be friendly. Our world is already so complicated and has so much heaviness. What about just saying hi to a stranger and smiling and being nice? Again, they might not be your person. Who cares? You're practicing. That's really kind of how I live and breathe my life. And I encourage my clients to do the same.
Yeah, we need more positivity. And I love how you were talking about divorce, that people tend to focus on negative and they feel like they failed in their life. And they
Yes.
forget that you married this person for specific reasons, and there was probably many, many years of good things that you can remember with that person. So I I, I think it's this society views divorce as a failure. And
Yes.
it's not, because people had families, people had children that were born in love, so you can't say that was a failure. It was just a part of your life. And for some reason, and every person has different situation, now you're in this different stage in your life. So
Yeah.
I want people to stop thinking about divorce as a failure, because 50% of marriages fall apart eventually. And how many people that don't get divorced and they stay in miserable marriages and have horrible relationships. So the success rate of good relationship, long-term relationship is very small. So we should not look at it as some failure. You should look at it, it's my life. These are my experiences that somehow affected me and built me into who I am right now, today.
100%. People evolve, people change, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when a lot of people get married in their mid 20s, late 20s. And if you
Right.
look at yourself like from your 20s to wherever you're at, your 40s or
Yeah.
50s or 60s,
Different person, right?
completely different person, right? And so you have to take that into account. It's definitely not a failure, right? And marriage is really hard. It's really hard. It's like I describe it like a garden. It takes a lot of nurturing, a lot of tending to, a lot of
Grow together, right?
growth, right? And sometimes it's just not meant to be. Sometimes one of the individuals is putting more work in than the other is willing to do. And so that's when it severs and that garden starts to, fade and those plants die, which is sad. But there's so much joy to be derived. And I think that, my other motto, we live one life, right? And the happiness quotient and like being happy is so important. So if fundamentally you are not happy, you really have to kind of see, just kind of the cost benefit analysis, like of your own life. I
And
do believe,
sometimes marriage is a failure, right? Sometimes it is a failure.
yeah, and
And
that's okay.
try to do it better next time if you decide to get married again.
Exactly. And learn from that, right? And also kind of have when you're ready to think about dating, having some sound bites around your previous marriage, especially if you are leading with that failure, I'm a failure sort of mentality. That's not going to bode great for dating. Because then whoever you're meeting is going to think, he or she doesn't make good decisions in their life. So it's really important to just kind of be in the right mindset. But also, I think for anybody listening who has gone through or is going through divorce or any traumatic life experience or any situation where they're like, oh, the proverbial elephant in the room, whatever it is, have a soundbite around that, right? So, you are provided the opportunity to be really clear and share something about yourself that's what I call kind of sticky and icky. We all got those. Some of us have more skeletons in the closet than others. Some, don't have many at all, but like we all have something, right? And that something can make us feel uncomfortable because it's vulnerable. And vulnerability is scary, right? But vulnerability also lends itself towards attraction and connecting on a deeper emotional level. But again, you got to have kind of a soundbite around subjects that feel heavy or like failure towards yourself. And when you're getting to know somebody, you're in that, what I call that power seat, where you might actually bring it up before asked. So, for instance, let's say I'm going through a divorce. I feel like a failure, right? But I really do want to meet somebody. So I'm starting some dating apps. I'm putting myself out there. I'm on, one of my first dates. I would bring it up before even asked because that's a way to stay in a very kind of powerful position, right? And where I'm not like kind of edge of seat or biting my nails like when's he going to ask me like the dreaded question about my previous marriage that's on my dating app. I would say something like a little bit about me. So I was married for 10 years. There was a lot of great things about my marriage. We used to laugh all the time, but ultimately it came to a close because we just grew apart. Like, I think us humans were always evolving, and we realized, like, for the long, long term, we just, some of our values were a little bit of a mismatch. And so that's what brings me here today. And it feels good to be here, and you're making me laugh. What about you, right? So you're then kind of like volleying back. So you've offered up a little bit about yourself, that little soundbite. You actually paid your ex a compliment. We used to laugh a lot, right? You're not tearing him down or saying you're a failure. And then you're bringing it to the present moment, right? The here, the now. And then you're volleying conversationally, that little tennis ball across the court to whoever you're out with. What about you? And seeing if they're willing to be a little vulnerable and give you that energetic match. If they're not, maybe a data point for you. If they are, two thumbs up.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
if you had to give just one advice in terms of dating after divorce, what would that be?
Mm. Well, I like to derive a lot of the wisdom from Rome's first emperor, Augustus. His kind of guiding maxim is festina lente, make haste slowly. Okay, so this is a strategy that I tell all of my clients who are dating through divorce. And I want to kind of mention the symbol and the motto of Augustus's kind of empire, which was it's a paradoxical one. It's very interesting. It's a dolphin paired with an anchor. So the dolphin represents speed, precision, really kind of going through the water fast. And the anchor is steadiness, calmness, grounding. So I know that everybody wants to find that partner, and often we can rush to make decisions because of anxiety and we're excited. But it's really important to kind of temper expectations, make sure who we're out with is a very strong alignment, kind of emotionally, values wise, so we make good decisions. That's really important. So we kind of keep our eye on the goal of like moving forward with life, that dolphin, that precision, goal oriented, but we pull back to make sure that we are making grounded decisions rooted in authenticity to ourselves, groundedness, staying steady, being tempered. I think ensuring that all those signals are there, with respect to kind of our partner that we're really interested in. So that is a big one. I think we can derive so much wisdom from, centuries and centuries and centuries ago. To really kind of
Slow down.
slow down. Exactly. Keep your wits about you. Don't rush decisions. The ROI on finding the right partner is infinite. Like my clients know that. Like it is so, so important. So that's, kind of back to Augustus's strategy of like, yes, we have the goals, here's the action items. Amy, the matchmaker, kind of has the science, the metrics. The client is very goal oriented. They have everything in their life. They have the missing puzzle piece of the match. They want it now. Part of my strategy, again, kind of using Augustus's wisdom of festina lente is, okay, when that client says, okay, this person is my person, and maybe we're like 3 introductions in, I'll say, no, no, no. I'm going to tee up the next introduction. They're like, wait, I thought the whole goal is like to enter a relationship, but I want them to be really smart
Sure, to be sure. That's the one.
and have some comparisons where they can remove themselves, like take multiple steps back, have that 10,000-foot view of their life and
Yeah.
who they're meeting, and really make grounded decisions that are lasting ones. Because certainly the cost of making, the poor decision could be, very impactful, professionally, personally, the ramifications. So it's real important, and my clients understand that. So that guiding principle is something I would say, through divorce or whatever stage in life, just take a breath, slow down, and know that your time will come with the right person. But you gotta be strategic, very strategic about it, actually.
Yeah, intentional and strategic, I would say, because I got divorced in 2017,
Okay.
many years ago. Um, and we decided to get divorced 2015, so even earlier. And in the beginning, I was dating and I had a relationship, but then that didn't work out. And I'm thinking the more I'm single, the less I'm interested in finding someone. Like in the last 3 years, for example, I had so much going on in
Yeah.
professional world, I have children, and my daughter's telling me, Mom, you need to be open to a relationship. But I became so comfortable being
Yes.
on my own. I'm so comfortable. You know, I feel like somebody will find me and he will know she's the one, but I don't feel like I have to take any action anymore. Even though in the beginning I saw myself like being married again and having a partner, but now
Right.
I'm very comfortable being by myself. So that slow down, I wanted to show. I usually don't share my personal life on this podcast, but because we have this subject and you said, you need to slow down, and I feel like there's another side of it.
Yes.
I feel like I slowed down to the point that I don't think I even need this anymore. No, it's hypothetically speaking, maybe it would be wonderful to have somebody in my life, but at the same time, all this effort and it just maybe not the right time all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, yes, I think you need to definitely be intentional about things, and so much is timing based. So
Yeah.
you'll know like when the timing is right, but you also know that, he's probably not going to just appear on a white horse, with a cape on and a sword. You got to be proactive, as much as us ladies like to kind of imagine the fairy tale, the reality is the reality, right? And the nature of dating in close to now 2026, modern dating is more complicated.
I'm very strong and independent, but then it comes to relationships, I'm more feminine. And I see that men are not, they don't show up as this traditional roles where he's a leader and he will plan everything. For some reason, we had this issue of toxic masculinity. In my opinion, I love that men are strong and the women are feminine, and it's just so beautiful in my mind.
Absolutely. Well, a good filter for that, for you to find kind of that traditional type. So let's say your friends set you up, or you're on a dating app, or you meet somebody out and about, like start with a first phone call, like do a vetting phone call, and have some questions already kind of mapped out for yourself, almost from a values perspective, where you can weed out men who are not going to be in alignment with that type you're looking for, and ask questions designed around aligning values. Keep the phone call to a minimum, 15, 20 minutes or something like that. But you gotta kind of protect your heart. You gotta protect your time. You're obviously busy professional woman, full life, kids. So time
My
is
kids are big already. My son is 16, my daughter is an adult, 21. I don't have an excuse not to focus
yeah.
on my personal life. I just choose not to.
Well, that's another story. I think
People say I need to move to Texas to have a man that I imagine, like you said, your type, right? And maybe you would disagree with me. Sometimes people think that they have their type, but maybe they're wrong too.
I mean, I think people can think they have a type, but if they've always dated that type and it hasn't worked, then I ask them, are you willing to break that pattern? Because clearly it hasn't worked.
Doesn't work, yeah.
So that's where we begin to kind of shift things and look at different types and see if they click with different kind of sets of parameters. But yeah, that's for somebody who's really willing to kind of put in that work and trust the process. Because I do find that, sometimes, when I match exact types, right? I'm involving a lot of art in this, which is my intuition. We have the science, but these days, for how I'm matching, it's probably about 85 to maybe 90% art, being kind of my pattern recognition from thousands of repetitive conversations I've had for the last 23 years. It's kind of like this mainframe in my mind where it's like feeding me information. So I'm able to kind of pick up on really key things that I think people are, would make for a really amazing match. And sometimes it is not necessarily the bullseye that we think could be the match. It is somebody who bleeds outside those rings. You know, it could be a few deviations beyond that type that we even defined in my office.
Yeah.
And that to me is where the magic is, actually. That to me is like the exciting part of the journey for the client who's willing to kind of trust that if I say, oh my gosh, so and so, I have this idea for a match. He or she's a little bit outside of the bullseye, and this is why.
Yeah.
Willing to kind of trust me on this and kind of take that little leap of faith with me. And for the client that is often where the chemistry is, right? And that's the excitement, the chemistry, the energy, deep alignment, right? And it might look a little bit different than what somebody thought they would be with, right? But that's life, right? I mean, how can we predict chemistry, right? I mean, we're trying to do that here, but the reality of that is quite challenging. So,
it sounds like your clients trust you. I think this is beautiful. But because of all that experience that you have, like you said, you already developed this seventh sense, right? Your intuition, all the logical thinking, but also you just know somehow, right, that this person would be a great match for this person. But you want them to see it, like you said, you would give them 2, 3, 4 different dates, but you already probably know she would be the one or he would be the one.
Exactly. Like I'll give you a story. About a year and a half ago, I was at a friend's Persian New Year party. So I socialized a lot. Like my clients like that I'm in the community, I'm active, I'm always kind of looking out for potential matches for them, like outside of my database, like I'm involved like in the community, through different events and charitable endeavors and so forth. And so I was at this Persian New Year party. And at the time, I was representing a male client, and he had a handful of different introductions, actually one pretty serious relationship from my introduction. Ultimately, that did not work. It came to a close. So he was single again, and I told him, I'm going to be at this party, and I'll keep my kind of active eyes and ears out for you for anybody. And I immediately saw this woman at the party, and I did kind of a physical scan, and I thought to myself instinctually, gosh, she is his type physically. Then I just paid attention to what she was saying. And I was like, wow, she's really intelligent, actually, and thoughtful in the way that she's just kind of like, using her words, her language, her kind of mastery over like, the English language. Like it was just, I could tell she was a very like learned, interesting person. So I approached her in the cold and I said, excuse me, are you single? And she said, yes. She's like, is it that obvious I'm single? Like, who are you? And I said, I'm Amy. I'm a professional matchmaker. I overheard you, and not to like, eavesdrop or be creepy or anything. Like I have a client that I think you could be great for. And so I even felt, for whatever reason, confident enough to like just say, to her, I'm going to film you. Just introduce yourself, say hi really quickly. So I filmed her, got her permission, sent that to my client. And he's like, I've got to meet this woman. And they ended up getting married. And so that is just where it's kind of in life. You never know, putting yourself in those environments. And like, that was a match a little bit outside kind of.
So you're working 24/7 for your clients. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes,
like, okay.
Totally. Yes. Always thinking, never limiting things to just one platform or resource, always expanding on ideas. Social media is a big tool for us, as is LinkedIn, marketing different searches. Our website is really exciting. My business was first to market in putting client VIP descriptions up there as what became very important real estate in the matchmaking kingdom. So there's a lot of eyes and single people that go to my website. And through that, they can read about different clients and then apply to meet them. And there's been multiple clients that have gotten married from that approach. So at Linx, we're always pushing the envelope. We don't limit things to just one approach.
Yeah. And as we talk about limits, I know that your work is not limited to the Bay Area. that your company is actually international and you have a lot of success all over the world. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So Linx is wedged in the heart of Silicon Valley in Menlo Park, but there is such interest from abroad, and it really has become a global brand. So on a daily basis, there's people from around the world that apply and write links, which is fantastic. To be honest, a lot of those people, I can't help them because sometimes they're looking for a match in their own geography. And that might be a small town in, the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Europe or the Middle East. So it might not work out for us or be kind of aligned for success. But I've represented clients all over, from Shanghai to Hong Kong to Australia to Dubai, throughout Europe. A lot of these people will have ties to Silicon Valley. So they either have investments here, they have a vested interest here. Maybe it's a board seat they're on, or, they are Stanford University or Cal alum. So they have some sort of like curiosity and or interest in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a reason why, signing up with Linx is attractive to them. And also they really like the idea of meeting just smart people. Obviously where we live, there's so many brilliant individuals. And that is
many wonderful people.
Aphrodisiac for them. Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And sometimes people also in different geographies, they like to really date outside of their geography. It can be a little bit more challenging with respect to kind of launching a relationship and actually kind of gaining that momentum to kind of capitalize on, like, okay, this could be a relationship. It takes a lot of work, but it can be really exciting. And also sometimes the distance allows the heart to really make decisions, right? Without rushing things.
True.
Yeah, allows you to slow down. Again, back to kind of that guidance.
Yes, that's true.
So it really is like a global brand. It was exciting. In September of this year, one of my clients and I flew to Korea, where we shot a campaign for his search in Seoul, which was really exciting. I chose Korea because based on what he's looking for in a partner, the cultural diversity, just the cultural richness, the backdrop of Seoul, I thought would be a really beautiful lens to shoot a social media campaign as part of his search. So it's kind of like a new vertical of my business.
That's interesting, exciting for you. Yes, to explore this side of your business. Yeah.
It's exciting, like, to be able to really leverage technology, right? And not turn a blind eye to the power of technology, whether it's AI, social media, LinkedIn. I mean, really embracing that and using that to our advantage. And so to be able to kind of share somebody's story cinematically and do it on such a profound level, like literally traveling to Seoul with my client, was an extraordinary opportunity. And our hope is that somebody who sees these they're kind of like short films actually, will say, oh my gosh, he's the guy I've been waiting for. And then they'll apply. It's really.
You never know. Now, I usually ask my podcast guests, what does kindness mean to you? But I also wanted to ask you about love. Because we're talking about love today, dating, matchmaking, but the purpose is love.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, love is a feeling that transcends, deep in your heart, where you feel safe, you feel a sense of joy, you feel comfort, you feel that emotional regulation. You feel calm, you feel definitely peace and protection, you feel really happy and joyful. It is something that sometimes it's hard to describe, but when you feel it, it feels so good, where it's just like you feel like warm inside your body. When you think about that person that you love, you get butterflies still. And that sometimes can be, a decade later or 2 decades later, when they call you or they text you, you feel like flooded with excitement, or you feel that rush, of just like giddiness, right? So those are all the different things I think love is. And I really believe that no matter what, everybody deserves love and they're worthy of it and they're capable of it. Sometimes it takes some hard work to get to that point, but there is somebody out there for everybody. I do believe that. But again, the timing is important on that. So got to just make sure that the timing is right. And when you're ready, the world is just such an incredible place. It's filled with such opportunities and profound love, and whoever's listening, you deserve that. If you haven't already found that, it's out there. You just have to sometimes do a little bit of work on yourself and a little bit of digging and unearthing, and then you're going to discover that. And when you feel that and find that, treasure that. Always treasure that.
I love that you said that love is many little things, right? Many different things. It's not just one thing.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I think people have it and they don't recognize it.
Yes, exactly. That is true. And sometimes that's out of protection, right? Kind of self-protection, right? From whatever relationships or kind of hurt we've felt before, that we protect our heart, right? And it's scary to go there, because that is vulnerability, right? And that is rawness and being human, right? But in order to kind of find love and get to that point, you have to tap into that and be a little vulnerable, right? And then the right person, I do believe, will match that. They're going to match that and even increase that, right? And then you can increase that.
Yeah.
And that will allow for that wonderful, deeper connection.
And what does kindness mean to you? I know that you mentioned that you're involved with some charitable projects.
Kindness is about, I think, respect. It is about thinking beyond ourselves. It's about kind of focusing on the greater good. It's about creating impact, whether it's micro or macro level impact. It is being selfless. It's about thinking of others. And maybe it's even the simple things in life where it's just like somebody needs help, or like calling a friend that you haven't reached out to who's going through a hard time, reaching out or texting that person. Or in terms of like actually getting involved in your community. I mean, there's so many different people and nonprofits and organizations and charities that really need support. So kind of like getting out of our everyday life and kind of cycle we're in, and getting our hands like involved in different like things and charities that we feel passionate about, or that we can provide some positive impact. That's kindness to me, but I think it's like getting outside of like ourselves and really fundamentally thinking about others and motivating other people too. That's something that, my business has created a new vertical called Cupid for a Cause, really aligning with different charities that I feel passionate about. Like one of our first ones we did this year was for the LA fires. I mean, when that
Very
happened,
important, yeah.
My gosh, I saw friends' homes burn down. One of my friends, his wife had literally just gone into labor with their second child, and their home was burning down. So it's just like in that moment, like, gosh, like so
I have to do something, right? I have to do something.
I have to do something. And if I don't do something, I'm going to feel like, like this terrible person. So for me, I just rallied friends together and used technology, using Facebook, using Instagram as ways to kind of promote and create this call to action for people to just donate clothes, donate supplies, and then working with one of my clients, former client, and his very philanthropic wife, where they got massive trucks and we put all the supplies there and then shipping those down to Southern California. Hopefully it helped, a handful of families.
Yeah.
just doing something feels good, and that to me is kindness.
You're such a wonderful person, and talking about this, it touches my heart. Yeah, that's.
Thank you. Well, it's also really nice through events, that Linx will be doing even more of kind of Cupid for a Cause events, because what's nice about that is, finding people like the patrons of these different Linx networking events, and they're not necessarily singles mixers at all. It's really focused on creating that impact through a charity that we're aligned with. And the guests that come there, they are impact based. They want to do something. So if that means they're buying a ticket and part or maybe all the proceeds go to the charity, the different people that they meet there are going to be already kind of aligned with that mentality. And so that's a really nice way to meet like-minded people, put yourself in the community, do good, feel good, all those important kind of muscles that you can flex on, and just kind of get
It'll
out.
make you feel good too, to be part of it.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, and that makes me feel good. Like helping others feels good, and then seeing others feel good and meet people.
Yeah, just all good energy. Yeah,
Vibes. Yeah,
good vibes, good energy.
exactly.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It was wonderful. I hope it was helpful to many people, and I hope who is single now, maybe we will wish you to find somebody special, unless you prefer staying single and you're happy. So not everyone has to rush and find someone right away, but reach out to your friends. Don't feel lonely. I don't want people to feel lonely during holidays,
Exactly. And if anybody is interested to just join my free database, I would love that. They can do that through going to the website, which is linxdating.com, linxdating.com. It's just content-based, no matching on the website, but that's an opportunity. And then, of course, join our events too. And I hope for people listening, they can always join the free database, and you'll be vetted, for lack of a better word, inventory. We might reach out if we have a client that we think you could be a great fit for. So it's just a kind of almost like a no-brainer for people, just an additional lovely resource for you. And then if somebody's looking to become a client, I'd say educated, professional, dynamic, commitment-minded is important, desiring monogamy, and somebody who's leading a healthy lifestyle is important as well. But they could be anywhere geographically. Granted, the majority of this network really supports the Bay Area.
Yeah, and you do some background checks, right?
Yes.
But even me, I would run a background check. That's what I do. I'm sure many people do that too.
Yeah, background check, lie detector test. You're smart, you're accomplished, you're beautiful, you should
run background checks.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That all sounds fabulous. So, and I hope you will join some of our different events in 2026.
Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you so much.